Good morning, everybody. And I come to live, Spirit and Coffee. Got my coffee here. Yum, yum, yum. Love this. Coffee's really good. So it has been a while since I've been on here. And typically I, get on every day. I've been doing it for so long. Went on a little vacation. Came back feeling super tired, super out of it. Good morning to those on Facebook, by the way. If I don't, I'm not gonna be able to see you because I'm streaming live on Instagram. So, but good morning. I know that like Betty typically shows up. So if you're on here, Betty, good morning to you. Michael, I think, is somebody who shows up quite often. And like I said, I'll get a list of names and people that show up and just good morning to you on Facebook. And leave comments because I'll go back. If there's anything that I need to address, I'll go back and address it. So please leave comments. Couple of exciting things coming up. I'm really excited that my website is being developed and courses are going to go up. And so courses will be available for you guys to purchase. And it's very kind of, it's not the deep spiritual alchemies type stuff, right? It's more of like, how do I gain more time in my life? How do I create more time in my life? How do I support myself to get organized and then start to develop these plans that help me move into the goals that I want to create? And so that's really what it's about. So excited about that as well. And that should be launched and we'll see how that goes. Hopefully some of you people who've been following for ages or years will take a look at the course and see if it's something that you're interested in. Also, if you have ideas about courses, things that you want to listen to or hear, please let me know and I will definitely support you with that. Okay, so let's get started. I've been, of course, in my master's program and I've been doing a lot. And so I'm a little bit exhausted, I'm not going to lie. I have a lot happening and basically what we're doing right now is something called shamanic traditions, where we're looking at our lineage, our ancestry, our historical past. And I want to kind of talk about this because I feel like it's important for a person to know sort of where they've come from. Not that they have to be stuck in the past, but we as individuals, as people, before there was a industrial world, right? Or we had postmodernism, and our modernism and then postmodernism, and the way the world has actually been developed and created. We were individuals who had rituals, rites. We were culturally enriched, right? We worked with the land. We had farmers, and we understood the nature of nature. We had to cycles and the stars and all these other things that we understood, and we sort of have lost touch from that. And not everybody, but a lot of us have lost touch from that. Why? Because it was ripped apart. We know there was people that were coming to a new land, and then they were ripping the culture apart. And this is happening sort of everywhere. And right now in India, that's happening. Capitalism is kind of going in there and things are happening and they're taking away culture and stuff like that. And generations and generations and generations and generations, this has happened. Okay, so we come to the common day where we're looking at individuals like me and other, children who are like, where are my cultural roots? Where do I come from? How, and how do I get back to the place of that connection to the rituals or the rites of passage, or the healing medicine that we had back whenever it was. Well, each culture has their own thing, right? So I was born in the Southwest. We have a lot of native tribes here. We also, had a lot of migration here. And so there's different practices. I started looking up my own history. And I never knew that I could do this, right? So I went to ancestry.com, started this journey to kind of look at, well, what did my ancestors do? What were their sort of cultural practices? And and whatnot, and starting to dig deep in, and found some good morning spirit, good morning session. Started to realize and recognize that I have a bunch of different things going on. And my grandmother, who I was really curious about, started to figure out that I have probably Irish in me, which I didn't even think. I had no clue, right? I thought it was Latina. I thought we were, maybe Mexican, with some native and then some Spanish, and didn't even realize that there's this whole other line in my family that came from something else. So what are the cultural practices there, right? Because there's things within me. And so you're kind of looking at yourself. And if you don't know your historical past, it's kind of exciting because you start to say, well, oh, why is it that I do this? I was interested in tarot readings when I was young. No one told me. And in fact, it was bad to do that. Like in both my families, we were raised Catholic. And if you were reading tarot cards, you were like, that was terrible, right? And I come to find out that my grandma used to read cards. And that for me was a big like, what? Where did she learn? And, how am I connected to this ritual or practice? To come to find out that, well, because it's probably in our line somewhere down the line where I don't know, the cultural practices that came in, and then started to figure out, well, who is she? What is this woman? And then found out that we have this whole other family that I might be in Kentucky, of all places, Kentucky. I was like, are you serious? Really? That's kind of weird. So just kind of understanding who you are, right? Going back to your past, and only to identify, not to be stuck there, but to identify like, oh, okay, now I can see it. Now I saw a picture of my great, great, great grandfather, and I look like him. My dad looks like him. My sister looks like him. And we all were freaking out because it was like, wow, this is amazing. Like we never knew anything about this side of the family, and yet here we are with their genes and their looks, and obviously some of their mannerisms, right? DNA and all that kind of stuff that certainly draws out, right, as this happens. So pretty interesting, pretty phenomenal, and I highly encourage that you kind of go down your spiritual path and reconnect. I think we're at a time right now where people are really searching for that reconnection to earth, reconnection to, I want to say the natural organic essence of God, right? Good morning, Andy. And so in that natural essence that we carry with, like, well, okay, we all have our connection, hopefully, to God. Some people don't believe, but the people that do, it's their own personal connection, right? It's not one thing. But to really foster that connection and understand that there are practices that you can use from maybe your own cultural, historic heritage and bring them into, a ritual or rite or something. And that becomes your medicine, that becomes your healing medicine so that you could move forward and reconnect. We're right now in a postmodern, I think they're calling it post, where we have integral paradigms coming in, our holism, our living systems. Good morning, Poetic. And these sort of paradigms that I'm talking about, right, are really integral. They take everything and they sort of say, well, we can't dismiss any of it. We can't just look at the science without looking at the observer of the science itself. We are the observers looking at the science, right? But we want to stand independently, but things don't live in silos. And we're not independent, although it does. Good morning, Taz. We seem as though we're in silos, right? It almost looks that way. It looks as though that's the truth, but it's not. We're all integrated, and it's this web, right? And these go back to the mythologies in history. And each individual is connected to some of those myth stories that have been sort of ripped apart, as people went out and they sort of took over the lands and they took over the spaces. And so it's displaced a lot of individuals. In particular, me, I felt displaced for a very long time. And, I grew up in the Southwest and I wanted to be part of the Native culture, but we weren't. And so I was watching a video yesterday of this girl talk about, well, you get to reach out to your own cultural roots. Where are they? And we have them. And so it's very interesting to me that I have found, good morning, Taz, good morning, Doc, that I have found that I have family in Kentucky. I mean, it's just really quite strange to me. And that if I go back further, that maybe I have a tiny percent of Irish in me. And it's kind of funny because I had red hair when I was young, like my dad. It's just amazing. And we didn't think this, right? We're like fully thinking we're Latinos. And there was this whole other piece that was missing from the story. So it's kind of looking at that and saying, okay, now if I go back to those roots of, I have a grandfather who was from Mexico, and thinking what were their practices? Were they farmers? Did they work the land? And what does that mean for me in my spiritual practices, right? Do I go and maybe I work with the land? If I go back to maybe my Irish, if I have Irish blood, well, what were their practices, right? They know that there were Vikings but they were land people as well. They were land-based people before all of the conquests or whatever happened, right? Throughout history, when they came in and the Catholicism kind of came in and there was murder and blood and all this stuff. And they were saying, you need to be part of this particular religion when they were practicing other things. So it's just reacculturation into your historical past. That's how I feel. So look at that. And there's some healing practices for you. It's kind of amazing. I never thought that I would do ancestry.com. I don't know if any of you guys have. Definitely be awesome to hear your stories about your culture and did you go back in history and what healing did that do for you? My sister cried when she saw the picture of our great, great, great grandfather. I cried when I was starting to do this work. My father is starting to heal. It's almost as though you go back to heal because you didn't know. And I think we came from bastard children. I hate to use that word, but I do. I think there was a lot of weird stuff going on in there, right? Good morning. Hey, GZ. Good morning, Dan. So when I look at that, I'm like, wow, okay, there was all this stuff. It's funny because New Mexico is an interesting place, right? People typically know where they come from. You have a long line of Martinez or, Garcia. Garcia. And they're like, yeah, my grandfather was blah, 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 came from this place. And they know, and I never knew. And I don't know how many people are out there just not knowing. And I just was not knowing. And it's because there was a lot of weird stuff happening. And I guess my grandparents were a result of, stuff that was going on. So people having affairs, and then this bastard child was born. And I hate to even use that word. That's not even a nice word, I don't think. But this illegitimate child, I don't know what you would call it. You guys can give me a better word. That would be great. Was born. And that then became, my grandma was a product of a second marriage. And so there's this disconnect in my family, and they never wanted to talk about it. So I had to do my own research, and I did. And I figured it out, and it was healing, right? What's cracking? Spirit and coffee, that's what's cracking, see? And we're talking about healing our historical past. So go back. It's quite phenomenal. I think there was some emotional acupuncture. And I'd love to hear your guys' story about what you guys have come to find out, if anything, or if you're interested in really understanding a child. Yeah. A child. There you go. Thanks, Taz. That's nice. A child. Just a child, right? I love that this is your topic. Honestly, I love synchronization so much. This is beautiful. Tell me what you mean, Taz. I'm going to have colors. So like I said, on Spirit and Coffee, I kind of like having the call in, isn't it, Taz? To come in and maybe call in. But I'd love to hear that, how this is synchronization. Are you looking into your past and sort of looking at your historical line and understanding what that is? I mean, it was crazy because my grandmother, right? If I was thinking about my grandmother, I thought like, I don't know. I didn't think Kentucky. Like I have a family in Kentucky. So we were just kind of like, what? Um, that's not even the story that I painted in my head, right? I had this whole other idea. And so it's kind of nice that I was able to really understand so that I can really know. Last night, a friend and I dug deep into our relationships with our parents, and the disconnect. Yes, there's a huge disconnect with the parents. And I will say this, I don't know how old you are, Taz, but I will say that my generation were the latchkey kids. And the latchkey kids didn't really have a home environment where the parents were there. They were totally absent. Like, where were the parents? They weren't there. We were totally taking care of ourselves at the time, right? And we didn't know. We were raised ourselves pretty much. And it's kind of like, well, where were our parents in all this? And I think all this healing is starting to happen. Like I'm healing with my parents. I'm letting them know how I feel. I'm like, look, this is what's going on. This is what happened. And literally allowing our historical past and lineage to heal and break the chain. So we become the breaker of chains. So they talk about the revival of the star seeds, the star children, all this. And people are like, am I a star kid? Yes, you are. Everybody is. We're all star children. We're all indigo kids, right? It's us that is going to heal that historical trauma of the past. So we have sort of a responsibility, especially if we're awoke, to do this, right? Kentucky has great people out in the sticks. I know that's, and I wanted to live out in the sticks. That's what I wanted to do when I was a kid. I was like, let's live in the, hills. But if we look at that, we can say that we are the generation that gets to heal the past traumas, and perhaps I would say the ancestral, the lineage, the breakage, the thing that was broken and ripped us apart as family, as community, to really heal that. And it starts with our families. It starts with you and it starts with your families. If you can't do it within the smaller unit, it's going to be really hard to do it in the community. There are some people who focus on the community and never really truly heal their internal world and their small microcosm place. And for me, it's about healing the family first. How do I heal my family? How do I restore this healing and understanding of who we are so that then they can go out and heal the community? Latchkey generation is so interesting. So are you part of the latchkey? Hello, Telmo. So there you have it. I'm going to get on the Podbean for call-ins if people want to call in. So if you just give me a second, I'm going to say goodbye to those on Instagram and Facebook. Again, these are going to get shorter, I think. I have so much content. I'm like, I don't know how much I can give my whole life, I guess, to these. But I kind of like hearing and having people just call in. I think I'll take one caller for the sake of time. But so for you out in Facebook land, also those on Podbean, before I let them go, please, 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 you guys, think about it. Think about going to your historical past and see what's available for you. Reconnecting into the rites and the rituals and the connection to land. Everybody was a land-based people at one time. And what were the practices? What was the medicine for your people as well? Okay. So I love you guys on Facebook and Instagram. Have a fantastic day. If you guys ever want to get on the Podbean, please, it's Spirit and Coffee at Podbean. No, Spirit and Coffee.podbean.com. Okay. Have a great day. Bye-bye. Okay. And I will end now. Awesome. Okay, so still on Podbean. And I will take a caller if someone would like to call in. I'm 28. I moved to the States at 6 years old. My immediate family as refugees. So I will wait to see if anybody on Podbean would like to call in. You are welcome to call in. So parents had to work. It's me and my brother at home. Well, yeah, that's exactly the way it is here in the United States, right? The latchkey kids of the United States are, now adults and now looking at the mishaps of what our parents did. Of course, they didn't know, it's not to be like pissed at them or anything, because they didn't know what the results were going to be. They were just trying to survive and give us what they could. And then as capitalism rose and materialism became the forefront of everybody's minds, it was more, better, more, better. And so people turn to what? They turn to their cars, they turn to their houses, they turn to their Louis Vuittons. I mean, it's still here, right? And I just briefly talked about that. Yeah. And so as they turn to capitalism and their Louis Vuitton and all that, basically materialism became the forefront of everybody's mind. And so the model that we use in spiritual alchemy, or this work that I call the great work, it's pretty simple. There's a model of have, do, and then be, right? And so what they did in terms of marketing strategy is they put the have first. If you have the car, you'll do what people with this type of car do, and you'll be happy. And they totally switched the model, right? It became look out to find happiness within, instead of look within to find your happiness created externally. So the model in which I use, especially for coaching and in ontological coaching, is be, do, have. Be happy. So we get to find the essence of our true nature so that we can do what happiness does, so that we can have happiness, rather than opposite. Okay. So that is a model and a structure that is utilized, like I said, especially in my coaching. And so when we look at it, we see the capitalist society of have, do, be. And they've sold us this have. If you have this, if you have that. And it's almost, I feel, if people really, really, really listened, right, to the marketing strategies and commercials, and really, truly honed in and understood that how they were selling things, then they would also probably be pissed off in a way. Because they've sold us lies, of course, right? The lies are, you're going to be happy with this. And so as people consumed more and consumed more and consumed more, they became less and less and less connected to their happiness and their eternal essence. And so now we're sort of shifting and trying to undo this thing. Right. So it's kind of, it's an interesting dynamic. So it's like, how do we re-tap into the essence and our core essence of happiness? So if we tap into that true essence of happiness, then we can start to do what I call walking integrity. It's another model. And this is a model that I sort of created, kind of piecemealed from other things that I've done in life, and really saying that everything starts with the essence of who we are. So the be, do, have, right, is being and allowing the process, which exists in the mind, to process things so our body moves in integrity through spirit. So spirit first, always. And that's how I live my life. And how do we create or co-create with the divine? There's nothing more powerful than co-creation with the divine. The blessings that are given from God, okay, if you will, if that's what you call it, God, or universe, whatever, creator, whatever you call it, that the blessings that come in through that connection are greater than any connection that you can get from your own self, or just people in general. And people will think it's magic, and that's the thing. It's like, how did you do this, or how did you do that? It's almost as if magic, right? And I was having a conversation with my niece's friend, who I'm sort of helping her get on track and stuff. And I was telling her that there's the difference between a master and a beginner, right, is just practice. But a master of the work, and even when they're getting better, so we'll say like first degree master. I'm taking kung fu, so now we're going to go into different degrees of mastery. Okay, so first degree master would say pen, and it's almost like a pen would fall out of the sky. Okay, but if you looked at like the ultimate master of the work, they don't say nothing and everything just unfolds in front of them. That doesn't require words, right? It just requires mere observation and true faith. And when we sit in that, to watch the world unfold in this pattern, right, and know that everything is there for us and available for us, and that we're going to be taken care of. Okay. Should be home, them accountable. Should be home, them accountable. Or they deserve the grace of changing it to the game. So yeah, so good morning, Miss Albie. So if we look at it, it's pretty crazy. It's like the practice of the work, of the essence of the tapping into, and here is your marker. If everything is working and flowing, you're on track. When things start to get hard, I'm not saying we don't need it, and I'm not saying they're not going to, but we have to reevaluate and reassess. And that's a big indication that we may be off the mark. And so then we need to ask ourselves, what is it that we need to adjust? Or what is the lesson that I am to learn in order to elevate to the next level? See, I'm taking Kung Fu. And the way that Kung Fu works, of course, it's a belt system. And you can't learn new material until you sort of master the basics material. And that's the same thing for life, right? It's like the basics. Like if you can organize your life and find structure and grounding, then you're ready for the next level, and you can add more onto your plate, right? You can add more and more and more, but a little at a time. But you have to master certain things in order to open up the next level. And that's true for life. So it's sort of looking at, how do I open up these levels in my life? And I believe that one of them is looking at our past. That is a huge part of it. How do we heal the past traumas? Marketing is key in capital. Absolutely. They've learned that if they control and manipulate our emotions, we become puppets. They trick us into believing that happiness is what they are selling. Yeah, exactly. And it's a have, do, be model. Have. If you have this, you'll do this, and you'll be this. Rather than be this, then you'll do this, then you'll have that. And at the end of the day, you'll realize that you don't even want the things they're selling. Like, I've never been a huge materialistic person. It's just not me. And it's funny because I live in a family. I'm not saying they're materialistic, but they absolutely love to give gifts and stuff like that. And I'm just not. And they're constantly, they give me the gifts. I'm like, I don't need no more stuff. I have so much stuff already. But I love it because they're thinking about me, of course. But when you think about it, it's like you don't even really, abundance. You don't even want the things that they're selling. You're just like, okay, that car, really? I just need a car that gets me from point A to point B. And I'll tell you a funny story, actually. My friend, when I got my car, I got a used car, and I did not care. It was nice, right? It was, but the body work was not that nice. It didn't look like a professional car or whatnot. And I was a professional, right? I was a director, and I, and I had to go to these meetings that were professional meetings. And my friend just kind of laughed. She's like, how are people supposed to take you serious when you're driving up in that? And I'm like, hey, look, just accept me for who I am. Like, it's not about my car. This car probably works better than all of those cars, and it gets me from point A to point B. That's the goal. The goal isn't to look stylish or beautiful or wonderful or, hey, look at what I have. No, my goal is to like get around and have freedom. So, which is a different mindset. My mindset comes from the essence of freedom. I get to be free. And so that freedom looks like being able to be mobile. And being mobile means having a vehicle so that I can drive around. What it looks like doesn't matter to me. If I had the opposite mindset, then my freedom would look like, they'll sell us freedom. So if you want to be free, come and buy this Jeep Wrangler that will take you on all terrain and da da da. I don't know what they say. I don't watch TV, so I don't even know what the commercials are saying. But they basically will say they're selling freedom, right? Or they're selling happiness, or they're selling whatever it is. And the freedom is what? That this beautiful car is going to give you freedom. Well, not really. Any car can give me freedom. I can just get in a car that moves and I'm free. So totally opposite. We find ourselves keeping up with the Joneses and don't even know why. It's so weird. Yeah. And I see that's the thing. It's like I don't have any Joneses to keep up with. It's because it's just I'm an interesting character. It's kind of funny. I just don't care, like literally don't. But as long as the car works, I group around. Yeah. That's it's hard. I think our parents were like that, especially my mom, and they were looking at that. They wanted to have nice things, and it's not I don't even know the Joneses, me either. That's what I'm saying. And my parents themselves, they like nice things. And I loved what my dad told me. And I think this is the best way to look at it. He said, look, God wants you to have nice things. It's not that God doesn't want you to have nice things. And it's not that you can't have nice things. But you're not defined by those things. Those things don't define who you are. And you don't fall in love with them because easy come, easy go. You're always going to have things, and things always seem to surface, and it's okay to have them, but it's just, you don't have to be in love with them. They are not who you are. And I'm like, yeah, that's great. And so it's okay to have nice things. This is not saying don't go buy the nice car if you want the nice car, but be grounded as to why. Where is it coming from? Is it coming from, I have to prove that I'm good enough to somebody? Or am I buying it because I know I have the money and I'm proud of all the accomplishments I have and I'm going to treat myself and this is my present? There's a different mindset around that. Or am I wanting to prove something to someone, because then that says you're not worthy, right? I'm not worthy of being enough. So I'm going to have to use this fancy thing to show people I'm worthy. And that is a psychological conversation that doesn't feel good, right? For people to feel like they have to constantly be proving their self. Like, that doesn't feel good. Who wants to constantly? That's draining. It'll drain the whole life out of you. I'm a strong believer in that. Your dad is dope. Abundance is a blessing, yeah. But what I want to flow in and what someone else wants may look different. Absolutely. And we all have different tastes and stuff like that. So I like nice things. It's not that I don't like nice things. And I will spend money on things that I truly know I'm going to use, but I'm practical, right? In things that I do. It's cars and bling for some. Yeah. My mom is a blingy person. She'll be wearing jewelry and she's fancy, and that's her. That's what she loves to do, right? She loves dressing up and she loves dressing me up like I'm her Barbie. It's funny. So firewood, and sitting around the fire, loved ones. Yes, that's a beautiful practice that I love. That's what I love. I love quality time. I like spending time with people and hearing them and listening to them and chatting with them and getting to know them and letting them know they're loved, and all those things are what's important for me too. And and I love people too. And it's and we're at a time right now where we compassion, love is necessary. It's a necessity. It's funny, I was watching the Dalai Lama, and it's kind of interesting. The Dalai Lama was addressing the police force of India, which was like, wow. I'm like, India, I love you, India, because India's like, hey, Dalai Lama, tell us how to be more compassionate police. what? I don't think in America we would ever have that conversation. I'm like, what is going on with us? You know what I mean? And so it's kind of it's amazing to me that what they said was the compassion is not necessary, it's a necessity. We need that right now. We need that compassion for people. It's really hard, and it's hard. It's not an easy practice. It's not an easy practice, right? It's easier to say it than it is to practice it. And so this is where our words start to align, right? Our words and our actions align. And I was really starting to think about that. Good morning, PPG, where I'm like, how do we align our words and our actions to be truly a walking integrity? And that's a practice. It's not easy. Words are empty. They're just empty. But when we start to practice those words, it becomes rich. Our life is enriched in several ways. And sometimes they're not comfortable either. We enrich our lives in uncomfortable ways, believe it or not. And we start to practice it. It's like, oh, I'm practicing compassion. And my big joke always is, and then someone cuts you off in traffic. And I instantly turn into something else. But immediately after, I'm like, Natalie, so I have conversation with myself. Okay, be nice. That wasn't nice, And then I laugh about it, right? But to be in the practice of that compassion, it's a necessity to love people right now is critical. And I think, I think in the opening remarks for that address was the individual was talking about that, how that was one of the quotes that they came up with from, His Holiness, which was, that it's a necessity. And it is. Kindness, compassion, and love, a necessity. It's necessary, it's a necessity, and it's above all right now, needed for everything and everyone. And the practice of that, what does that look like? And again, I think it goes back to the topic I was talking about. It's healing our historical past, because there's so much bloodshed from the past that we're carrying with us that we don't even know. And if we can go back and heal that part of ourselves, because it heals the family, like literally, I'm not even lying to you. As soon as I started doing this project now, I was on the phone with my sister and cousin for like 2 hours talking about all of this trauma that was in the immediate family that no one wanted to talk about. And all of a sudden, all these things were coming up that nobody knew. Like my cousin was telling me stuff. My sister was telling me stuff. And I was like, whoa, where is all this stuff coming from? Like, I didn't even know this was happening. I always was protected in whatever way. Like, I've never felt like I wasn't safe. And so for them to experience these things for me was like, wow, how can I support you guys, in what happened? And I'm so sorry, but there was crying and but it's starting to heal. It's healing my father. It's healing my mother. And it's looking at the family line and saying, how do we break the chain? So here's the deal. Here's what I'll say the final message is. We are the breaker of chains. And I know that's probably very, thank you for this, of course. We're the breaker of chains. And this is not very Game of Thrones. This came before Game of Thrones, okay? So I just want you to know that. I'm not quoting Game of Thrones. But they know that we're the breaker of chains. We're the breaker of the old paradigm. We're the ones who will shift into the new paradigm, those who are ready, okay? And this is where we have Aquarius on the rise. This is where Aquarius comes in, and people are like, well, what does it mean to be in a new era? What does it mean that now Pisces is out and Aquarius is in? It's the age of technology. It's the age of this. There's a new show that came out, American Gods. I'm going to start watching it because I did start kind of watching it and looking at the old gods and the new gods. What does that even mean, right? And so we look at it and we're saying we're entering into a new era. Now, there's going to be a sort of battles between it. Like, it's a spiritual battle. Like, how do we enter into this new era, but how do we honor the old, or how do we integrate both? And for people that are on their spiritual journey and they're really looking to support themselves through this are going to do just fine. But those who are sort of trying to hold on to the old and want to hold on to it and keep it, it's not going to work, because it's not going to stay that way. Things always change. So allowing ourselves to move through. Now, how do we do that? If we go back and break the chains of our historical past, right? We have to do the work. It is up to us. We are the star children. We are the indigo children. Yes, you are. If you were asking yourself if I am, yes, you are. There, I'm telling you, yes, you are. You have been knighted. You have been given the rites of passage. So go figure out what that means for you. You are the indigos. You are the star children. We are the ones who are going to come in and support the next generation of beautiful individuals into this paradigm shift. That's it. It's a paradigm shift. We're seeing things differently. Technology has been rampant. It's taking over. So how do we honor our past? And there may be a separation. And this is more like, I don't want to say prophecy, but more foresight, in that I almost see that there's going to be a stratified or a separation in ideologies, right? In the way that people live, that there may be those who go to land-based practices and back to the organic way of life, and those who deny it and go into the technical era, which is totally, different. And maybe those who actually integrate both. Like, what does it look like to integrate both? Can that happen? So it's a new era. It's a new era. It's a new time. And you get to get clear. Who do you want to be? Where do you want to be? How do you exist in this space? And how do you give back in a time where things are starting to kind of go wonky? And we're like, what's going on? Digital currencies coming out. Eventually we're going to go into cryptocurrency. Eventually there's going to be, all this stuff, cyberspace. People are going to be downloading their entire consciousness into a web-based place. I mean, computers, we have a robot with citizenship. I mean, there's so much going on. Things we don't even know. Microchips that are living right now. We don't know what the heck is out there, because we don't know it all. We can't know it all. Okay. So you get to ask yourself, where do you exist? Neither's right, wrong, good, or bad. There's no, the people say, well, it's evil, it's this, it's that. There's no evil. There is just is. And as it unfolds, you get to find out who you are in this place. How do you heal? How do you support those in healing? How do you support those into really choosing in powerfully to one or the other? In my own personal understanding of what's happening is the digital era is just reincarnation. That's it. Nothing too scary to think about. I think those people just want to reincarnate into the next phase. And I think those who reject it don't want to. They're saying, no, I don't want to reincarnate. Please don't leave me trapped in cyberspace for the rest of my life, right? And then we have programming, right? The programming that goes into cyberspace. There's no bridging the gap. I've known this for some time. The traditions that have haunted society are finally going to die, like the bigots that created them. Yeah. Yes, and then Taz, that's a whole other conversation, right? With what's going on, especially, and I'm actually, believe it or not, developing a training on white privilege, and if for tobacco prevention, I work in tobacco prevention. My day job is tobacco prevention. I work through the state for the state, and we're working on white privilege, right? How anti-oppression models and what does it look like and all that kind of stuff, right? And it's interesting because there is this shift in mindset, and then reading, and it's hard because people who are white, they don't know how. We haven't been able. I don't think we're doing a good job of opening the dialogue. Is what I'm saying, because they're feeling attacked, and so the key is not to make them feel attacked, but to open a dialogue so that there are some real changes within their mindset so that they can understand. They'll never understand the historical trauma that has been, the oppression and all that stuff. And so it's interesting. How do we open a dialogue, right, that allows for both individuals to have communication, right? That's going to heal it. Otherwise, we're just going to recreate the same shit. And this is where it gets hard. And so it's a touchy subject. And I know that in my indigenous shamanic traditions class, there was this beautiful write-up about the white man, and the white man, and that the lady cursed the tribes and said that the white man would come, and she told a story of white man and how it would totally disengage and whatever. But here's the deal. There's a function, right? If everything's God, everything's love, there's a reason why this happened. What lessons have we learned? Are we going to just go and point the finger right at them and not learn the lesson? That's not the lesson. The lesson is, how do we love even when in the face of our quote unquote enemy, right? And I won't say that they're enemies, but that's what it feels like for some. I mean, you would, if I could go and, yeah, white supremacy is, yeah, white people are white supremacy is, yeah, thank you. I didn't see that one. But some people feel as though they are the enemy, right? And there's people who are pissed at white individuals specifically, and they're the enemy, and it doesn't matter. If your skin's white and you're white, then you're the enemy. And so the mindset and the construct and the programming is recreating itself. And it's almost, if you thought about the Matrix, right, where the architect is like, this is the program, and the program doesn't change. And he even tells Neo, like, you make the same choices over and over and over again. And he says, not today. I'm making a different choice. And he totally chooses opposite of what he's always chose, right? That's a big, I mean, if we look at movies, they tell us what's going on. And so it's our ability to look at it and say, how do we open up a dialogue? Which is crazy. So, I mean, it's a beautiful time to be in, right? It's a scary time for some people, but it's also a very beautiful time. And healing our past is about that. And it's funny because I just found out that I have a part of me is white that I never thought, like really white. And then I was like, wow, okay. And I am, like, I'm very light skinned, but my whole life thought I was Latina, Mexicana, maybe Native, and that's it. And no, I found this whole other line and thinking, wow, where in my life have I experienced white privilege in the color of my skin, and having those conversations and truly saying, wow, I guess I have in a lot of ways, and me owning that and saying, okay, now how do I utilize this for the betterment of humanity? What does it even mean? How do we open up those dialogues? Because I identify as Latina, right? But my skin tells people that I'm white. When I was in India, everybody thought I was white. And so it was weird because I was never identified as that. But the skin of my color, right? The color of my skin says something, right? And that has been the story. And so understand that, and to own that, and to say, yes, okay, now how breaking the cycle, unleashing the shackles of insanity, embracing growth, walking in the freedom. Yes. Yes. So again, it's owning that. So how do we open the dialogue so people can recognize their white privilege? I don't know. I mean, I think it's gonna eventually, some people will. And I'll tell you this, Taz, and everybody who's on here, my professor is probably a great example of how everybody should see it. I'm just saying, he's white man, and he's teaching shamanic traditions. And at first I was not very happy about this, right? And I was like, how is this white man going to teach us about just shamanic traditions? I was raised in the South, and his approach is amazing. Like, he understands his whiteness. He says it. He acknowledges it. He understands the oppression and the trauma and everything that happened. And I mean, I don't know. It was just amazing to me. I'm like, wow, I wish this man could talk about it to his own peers. Like, that's what I feel needs to happen. It needs to come from their own peer, of an individual who they sees like themselves, who says, hey, look, we have white privilege, and whether you want to see it or not, it's irrelevant. We do. And understanding that, I mean, he was just an amazing person. I refuse to go to a white man for anything related to mental health. My my therapist is now a 65-year-old white man, and he's the best therapist I ever had ever. That's amazing. See, so there you go. We're healing. We're human, and that's another thing the Dalai Lama said last night. At the end of the day, we're human beings, and I'm like, yes, we are. Thank you. We are human. That's all we are. We're just human beings. And we've created all this stupid story. And this story, of course, we know that it was benefiting some people and not benefiting a whole lot of people. And now we can change the story. And it's up to us. So we have the ability to rewrite the story, which is awesome. That's what a paradigm shift is. It's a rewriting of the story. So we get to create a story. And what is it that we're creating? Well, the first thing I'd say is in your family, what are you creating in your families? Starts with family, starts with you, starts with your inner knowing. Who are you? And in that inner knowing, how does that transpire into the reaches of our family, and then into the community, and then into the world, and then into the cosmos? But until that happens, the healing's not going to happen. So we've got to go back. And that's go back to your ancestry. I'm doing that. And I can tell you it's crazy. Literally Kentucky, out of all places. Well, Virginia first, but Kentucky's where they stood. And my grandfather was born. My grandma's grandfather was born in Kentucky. That is the most interesting thing I've ever found out. They big mad at me. Oh no. Yeah. My family is cursed with delusional traditional BS. Just do the work. You work on you, and as you start to, here's what I did, because my family, I was the black sheep, if you want to call it. I was the outcast. I was the one who I was different. Okay. And out of that, I was like, okay, well, now what? And felt isolated. And I just said, you know what? I'm just going to do me. And I did. And because I knew that in my heart of hearts that I wanted to, where it was coming from. It was coming from my connection to God. And I said, you know what? Do me. And I did. And literally, they came back to me and said, okay, how are you doing this? They wanted to know, because the results that I was getting were very different from the results they were getting. And so they started to listen to me. So I stopped talking and I started just doing stuff. I said, enough talk. I'm going to do what I need to do. And I did. And now they're like, okay. And now they listen. It's quite amazing. I just shut up and did, and now they listen. And then they're like listening to what I have to say, because they're like, wow, okay. And that's part of the healing too. And I listen to them, and it's amazing because my sister's listening to me, and that's a big one. What? My sister listened to me? I can't wait for them to shut up and listen. And part of it is listening to them too, right? It's listening to them too, really listening to them. Like sometimes I just listen to what they're saying and don't say anything. And they're just like, I have nothing to contribute, It's like, my sister got cussed out last night. Oh, wow, it sounds like my sister. She's gotten better, though. She's doing a lot better. She used to, I don't know how she'd end up in these situations. She was throwing Cokes at the people, and I don't know what. I was like, oh, my sister, why is she always in some kind of drama? Oh, she was an angry one. She's getting better, though. So amazing. I told her all I wanted for every birthday moving forward is for her to shut up. Good morning. What does the spirit and coffee mean? Hi, CC, life coach. Oh, you're a life coach. What type of life coaching do you do? I have to go in a little bit, but Spirit and Coffee is it's really the use of esoteric wisdom, as it says here, and then the use of spiritual alchemy. So basically, it's open to every religion, every person, everybody, every human being who's a human being. If animals could talk, they would be welcome to. But it's for anybody to come on and sort of engage in spiritual practices. Like, how are you moving your spiritual practices in a direction that's going to help you to create the life you dream of? What is it that you're doing? What practices do you have in place, right? And mindfulness and business coaching. Love it. Woo! That's awesome. So again, mindfulness, right? If we're thinking about mindfulness, like how are we approaching our life mindfully? Like when we are thinking about, the people that may be impacted, right, by our lives with what we're up to. Or if we're thinking, how do I use my time mindfully? Or, those types of things. In terms of business coaching, esoteric goes into that as well. I mean, esoteric wisdom and spiritual alchemy is the key, one of the keys. I'm not going to say the key. So it's one of the keys to opening up your divine purpose and birthright and living it fully. It's a way, it's a process, it's a mechanism. I don't know if mechanism's correct. That might not be the right word, but a process, I would say, in helping us to live our life fully. And so spiritual alchemy goes back to ancient times. A tool, yes, it's a tool. And it has many tools within it. So within spiritual alchemy, you can find so many religions and stuff like that. And that's why it's open to everyone. It's part of holism and integral paradigm as well. I'm definitely following you on Instagram. Thank you. Yes, I appreciate it. And so that's what it's about. And so hopefully, Cece, it helps you. I mean, we can always, especially as a coach, we are always looking for new tools and new ways to support the people that we're coaching. And so the Esoterics offers many ways to support and many ways to help us. So that's what we do here. Do I have a YouTube channel? I do. And I think that it automatically goes to, because I have Facebook, I have Instagram, and I have YouTube, and I'm on here, and I'm all over the place. The YouTube channel, I think automatically post from my stream, because I stream live as well. So I do the streaming live, and then I hang up, and then I've been getting on the Podbean just to have callers if callers want to call in. Walk in your truth. Love it. You're a breath of fresh air. Thanks, Taz. You're a breath of fresh air. Thank you for engaging. And, one day maybe you could call in. I know Poetic calls in and whatnot. So follow me on Instagram. I'd love to connect with you. Awesome. Okay. And it's CC Life Coach, I guess. Is that what it's under? CC? You could, if you have Instagram now, you can follow me at Spirit and Coffee 1 on Instagram. At Spirit and Coffee 1 on Instagram. And then I can follow you back. Oh, you got it there. Heck yes, I'm signing into your DMs. Yes. Spirit and Coffee 1. Yeah, and so we're just here to support each other. That's it. Let's just support each other. That's what I'm here to do. Support, help, I don't know, give back in some ways. Like I've been off of my podcast for quite some time. And part of me was like, I used to be so excited, and I'm like, why is the excitement not there? Am I really, and I always question, am I truly supporting? Am I giving back? Are people truly hearing? Or am I, because I question, am I helping anyone? I mean, I'm helping myself. Yes. And that's beautiful. Getting on here helps me as well. So, but I want to support that. I have the capacity to do that. And so that's why I do this. Support. CC following you too. Okay. Awesome. All right. Well, I am ready to go. I love you guys so much. Thank you for engaging. And next time you guys are welcome to call in if you're if you're able to do that, in a position to do that, you can call in. So, I love you guys so much. Have a beautiful, magical day. And I will be on tomorrow for sure. And I'm going to try to get on earlier if possible. Okay. So have a great day. Love you. Mean it. Bye-bye.